How do you do? I'm Dustaroo, and I want to talk to you. Actually, ask you a question. Unlike the usual video where I'm just talking at you trying to convince you of something, I want to get your feedback and see how people feel about a subject. When or should Dead by Daylight sell out? Whoa, calm down. I can already tell some of you are squirming in your seat to say Dead by Daylight isn't a horror game and has not been serious in a long time, if ever. We will get to that, I promise, just hear me out for a second. Should Dead by Daylight start embracing the more goofy, lighthearted aspects of the game? Over the years, we've been getting small tastes of it, like Puddles the Elephant, Wesker, and how he feels far more comedic rather than horrific, and even the recent Naughty Bear skin. These are not horrorless characters and cosmetics, they still live in the camp of scary or horror-like aspects, but I wouldn't exactly call Wesker a horror character. At least one you don't take super seriously. You can't tell me in good faith that a guy who does this...
Your struggle is over!
and talks like that
7 minutes. 7 minutes is all I can spare to play with you.
is a serious horror character. So I'm left with the question, where is the line? What is too far over the line for a licensed inclusion tonally for Dead by Daylight? And once all the horror icons, or any with brand recognition or decently sized followings, are gone or unavailable, what is left for the game? Dead by Daylight is 7+ years old and aging rapidly. But I am going to be honest, and I want you all to really think about it. Not just the first thought that comes into your head, but really think why you think that thought, so we can get a more accurate answer. Will Dead by Daylight stand on its own merit several years down the line, once the hype from all the new things that I love that are possibly coming to the game is gone? Even if behavior wants to keep going, will there be as many people anxiously waiting once IP is less of a thing? Because honestly, I don't think so. The main reason Dead by Daylight is successful to the degree it is, in my opinion, is solely on the shoulders of being the Hall of Fame of horror. I don't even know if I would still be here if it wasn't. Of course, there are several reasons why Dead by Daylight is still successful besides big horror characters, but I think it is the real possibility that your favorite horror character or series could be here or included one day is the hammer to the DBD player's interest nail. How many of you consider Dead by Daylight to be a horror game? One that genuinely scares and unnerves you outside of the occasional jump scare. In my personal experience, this game started as a horror game and was quite effective with it. At least when I started, when you're playing for maybe your first 50 to 100 hours, when you don't know how to loop, you're feeling lost or confused with the maps, the fear is truly felt, almost tangible, an integral part of the experience. But as time goes on, you become familiar with the maps, the characters, the playstyles, the flaws. You become comfortable in a match. The edge, once so sharp you feared even a slight cut, is dulled down like someone has been grinding it with sandpaper for years. The edge you felt in your chest has become so rounded you wouldn't mind getting smacked in the ass a couple times just to feel something. Dead by Daylight is not a horror game. Dead by Daylight is a game with a horror theme, or it becomes that way over time. If you play Resident Evil 100 times, you're probably not going to be very shocked or anxious about what comes around that next corner. You're gonna be speedrunning. Any game you play over and over will always lose that feeling and is replaced with something else. It may be similar, but it is something new. It's a big reason the game has gotten more competitive over time, but that's a video for another day. The difference being that most horror games are not live service games like Dead by Daylight. a game that needs to be played by a lot of players over long periods of time to grow and even succeed. This topic was spurred on by one of my viewers during a live stream, where they asked the question, would you buy a Peter Griffin skin for Clown? I couldn't help but laugh and thought to myself, yeah, I actually would. Naughty Bear is not a horror game, but it may very well be my favorite skin ever added to the game. Even though they made him a lot more scary than his source material, he is still a funny addition to the game. He adds a little more lightheartedness to any match he's included in, but somehow still makes me feel like he could belong in the realm. And I would like to see more content that is on the goofy side, or characters that touch on horror aspects, but are not necessarily horror characters, like Grimace. Or do people love him now? I actually don't know how people feel about Grimace after that whole Grimace Shake stuff. I don't know about you though, but looking into those cold, dead eyes, and that fake smile hiding something dark will always keep me on edge, even if he does look incredibly goofy. On the other hand, I have my hesitations, as I think leaning too far away from the grim roots it started with could drive people away from the game that they grew to love for one reason or another. For some people, the main draw could be those gory and more serious tones, and the fact that the goofy aspects are there are somewhat of a negative to the game for them. Watching an ace teabag you after a pallet stun while looking like the Mad Hatter might make it hard for some people to feel immersed in their favorite killer. It could also hinder growth of new players, if there are any really left at this point. Most people who would be interested in Dead by Daylight have probably already played it, or have chosen not to. If there were any new players to actually come to the game, it's likely the kids who are growing into their horror phases as we speak. So turning this game into something akin to Fortnite having Bender, Mori, Morty could very well keep those new players from getting involved in the game and the community, as it's just not an experience that they're really looking for. In my opinion, this game is carried by its aesthetic, its feeling, its characters. So the way forward is a murky one, and a path I'm happy I'm not making the choices for. So I am torn. Well, at this point in my experience with the game, I would take great pleasure in more stupid but fun ideas. Is it time for Dead by Daylight to start to stray further away from its roots? Should it ever? Or when the day does come that DBD dies, remain intact with some form of integrity? The reason why I made this video is not for me to explain why DBD should sell out or why it shouldn't. I wanted to see how people feel about this. Because what I want Dead by Daylight to be is just my view. One person out of tens of thousands who play and consume media around this game every single day. Do you think Dead by Daylight should try and keep itself as semi-serious as long as possible, even nearing the end of the game's life? Or, after coming close to a decade at this point, start to embrace its more comedic side and officially become the Fortnite of horror? I am interested in what the players think, because where I want the game to go might not even be the right choice. So what do you want to see become of Dead by Daylight? My name is Dustaru, and I will see you all real soon. Bye-bye.